But I had a great childhood. I grew up, I've got loving mother, loving father, great parents. I got 4 great brothers, and I was a confident, outgoing kid. I loved to play sports. I loved to play music. My mom always says that I should have stuck with playing piano, but I played it long enough to play the drums because the drums were more fun. She's kind of right now. I wish I still knew how to play piano. By the time I was in high school, I'd started drinking and partying. And when I was in college, I was partying as often as I could, to socially fit in, but also to kind of escape reality from some of the, the concerns and issues and things that have happened in the past. And like I said, for time's sake, I'm not going to go into too many of those details today. I'm going to focus this time that I have on what life is like in recovery, right? What is that? What does that look like? Well, I guess I got to say a little bit about my drinking. So I was able to control my drinking enough through that adolescent time period to get married and to start a family. And I became a father to 2 wonderful, beautiful girls that are paying so close of attention. How's your snacks, girls? Are they good? They look good. And they became, and they still are, the center of my life. My life was going in the right direction, but drinking still controlled my life. Drinking still controlled everything that was planned around my drinking. I still went to work and did all that because I had to pay for it, right? But as far as all my extra time, it was definitely the number one thing. And I lived life on a roller coaster of up and downs. Some people say they were on a merry-go-round. Mine was more of a roller coaster, where it would, 1 week, month, season, it would kind of go up and you think, hey, you know what, maybe things aren't too bad, and then it would just crash down, And then it would kind of twist and turn, and you wake up those mornings and you just feel that in the room. You don't know what happened. You don't know what you said, what you did, who you hurt, how deep. I lived that for a long time, and through therapy is where the seed of going to AA came into my head. It was dropped in there a few years before I ever made it. But I was at a crossroads because I could not drink. And I tried to do controlled drinking, and it failed consistently. Even the last probably 2 months before I went to my first meeting, I tried to stop, and I would not drink during the week, and then I'd go back. By the time I got to the weekend, which couldn't come fast enough, it was just back to oblivion, very quickly. And then Monday would come around, and it would be the same cycle. And probably about the 3rd or 4th week, I actually started to enjoy those Monday mornings. I started to feel on Monday morning like this sense of relief, like this is a lot easier, And so I did not know anything about recovery. I did not know anything about getting sober. I thought everybody drank like I did. I was completely oblivious to anything like what we have here tonight, which, man, we've got some pretty cool stuff represented here, I went through AA. If anybody has any questions about that, you can talk to me. You can't talk to it. They can't have a booth or anything here due to, traditions. But we've got sheep gate here. Anybody that needs long-term care. I can't wait to talk to these guys more. Look at they brought a whole booth. Sober Soldiers is over here. I got a chance to go lead some worship with Sober Soldiers a couple weeks ago at a bonfire, and got to meet some. This is a great group. We've got Celebrate Recovery here. Steve Tuttle is here. There he is. He's got some information here as well. There's different ways. I knew nothing when I first came in. I didn't know there was anything as far as like a treatment center. I didn't know, and I think you watch it in movies, you hear what rehab is or treatment, but I was pretty oblivious to that part of it. And I never got in trouble. I was one of the very, very blessed ones. I never got any DUI or DWI or whatever they call that. And I never went to jail. I never lost a job, and I hadn't been divorced yet. A lot of this stuff was yet. And one day I was mowing my lawn. And I looked up to the sky, and it hit me that I really had no idea what to do next in my life. I had no idea. I was miserable, and I had everything that I could think. I've done everything I could think of. I got married, had a good career, had a baby, bought a house, new cars, had another baby, but still alcohol was king. I was chained to alcohol, and I could not get away from it. You know, all those years there was just these links to a chain that kept going, and every time that I could only ever get so far away from it, but it brought me right back. You know, it was king. So the theme of this is going to be freedom. You know, that's the key word I want you to be left with. It's freedom from this disease. You know, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, so I went to my first AA meeting, and I walked in, and I'm not going to lie, I walked in that meeting the first time to save my marriage. I didn't tell my sponsor that for a while. Because they'll tell you pretty quickly when you walk in there, if you're doing this for any other reason than to do this for yourself, it's not going to work. It's not going to work if you do this for your kids. It's not going to work if you do this for anybody but yourself. They made that very clear. They also made it very clear that they were going to love me until I could love myself. You know, they had a program that they followed. They had steps that they took. You know, so I didn't really have any other way. So I had to trust that this program would actually work for me. In an early recovery, I was going up to 5 meetings a week. You know, and I chose a great sponsor, and I worked closely with him, and you know, I called and worked with other friends in the program. I went to workshops. You know, I did everything that they said I should do. I got service commitments. I did all that stuff, and I stayed sober. You know, about a month in, I had a vision that I was walking before things had kind of, when I was still in the earlier stages. I had this vision where I was walking backwards, blindfolded, you know, towards the edge, you know, towards the edge of a cliff, and I was completely full of fear. You know, everything. I didn't know if I was 1 step away or if I was 300 steps away, but I knew where I was heading in my life. I knew that. So step 2 in the program is, you know, I had to find the faith to believe that a power greater than me could restore me to sanity. Okay. I kind of brushed that step off. I'm like, yeah, sure. That's what I want right there. I want that sanity. Let's just do that. You know, so I continued to go to these meetings, did what they said to do, started working these steps, and then I had another vision a few months in where I was walking with my arms open wide towards a canyon. You know, you see those in the movie where there's like an old rickety bridge with those wooden steps that are halfway falling apart, you know, and smoke coming out of a canyon. Well, I was walking right towards that with my arms stretched wide open with no fear. Walked right into it. No fear of falling. And that was God had told me that. You know, God told me that He was there and that He was not going to let me fall into that deep, dark place. So step 3 was I made a decision to turn up my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood it. You know, if somebody would have told me that Jesus is the way, true, and the life when I first got when I would have first got sober, I would have looked right at you and I said, that doesn't really help me with where I'm at today. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I don't understand what I need to do to stop these voices in my head and to get and to just understand where I'm supposed to go and what I'm supposed to do. So over the next 2 years, I continued to work my program. I made life changes, and went through divorce. That the marriage did not work, but I stayed sober. You know, and I worked hard to become the man that God wanted me to be. The father that my kids deserve to be, for me to be, the son that my parents deserve to have, and the friend and loved one that everybody deserved to have. You know, I had built these walls of isolation around myself, and it was just me. You know, I was the most comfortable I was when I was drinking. It was me drinking in a room by myself, and I thought that I believed that lie that says I'm not hurting anybody, I'm only hurting myself. So, through working these steps, I cleared the wreckage of my past. And at 2 years sober, I found what they call as peace of mind. I found that when I was in my second-story apartment, and all my stuff was in Bondurant, my parents' storage building, and I was putting together an electric grill, because you couldn't even have a gas grill on the balcony. And all of a sudden, the voices in my head stopped. You know, and I was shocked that I was not used to this, and it honestly kind of freaked me out. So, having a relationship with God by this point that I could trust, I asked God to guide me where to go, so I grabbed my keys and I got in my car and I drove to an AA meeting. And I knew that at that moment I was exactly where He wanted me to be. I just didn't understand why I had to have my entire life shaken upside down. You know, all these things that I thought were so important to me that I had to leave, I had to get rid of and walk away from. But it takes us all what it takes for us to get here. It's one thing that we say in recovery. I really believe that. Everybody's got these crazy stories, but there's always a center focus of that. So then right after that, shortly after that, once God got me to those voices in my head to stop and gave me this peace of mind, He gave me this little nudge. Go back to step 2. Came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. And in that moment, I dropped to my knees in full surrender. In that moment, I knew that Jesus had revealed Himself to me, and that He showed me that He was there through all those dark times, through all the good times. It's not everything with drinking was bad. A lot of it was good. But He was there through all of it, the good, the bad, through the struggles of past relationships, through the depressive states of isolation. I was living in freedom. I was living in freedom. And I was not chained to that past anymore. I was not chained to that alcohol anymore. You know, I had done what I needed to do to get to this point. And the chains of hell are locked from the inside. And Jesus simply told me to pick up that key that was sitting right in front of me that only I could pick up, put it in that lock, turn it, and those chains just disappeared. They were never even there, and they just disappeared. They were all right up here. James 2:26, and I like the King James Version for this one. For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also. So at 2 years sober, I was finally had the Spirit living fully inside of me. Not to be confused, it was not me taking the actions that led the Spirit to live in me. It took the actions to get me to believe that Jesus truly did die for me on that cross, and that Jesus truly did love me through all of those times, that I was worth it. And in that moment, He told me to follow Him. So, every action, work, act of service that I do is not to win favor from God, because He already loves me more than I can ever understand. The action is to keep me away from Satan and on the road to recovery. So as a family, we started going to church, and I dove into service, dove into classes, just like they taught me to do at AA. You know, and God gave us a church family. You know, some of them are still here today. You know, right here, right in front of me. You know, Grimes United Methodist Church, which is now Prairie Creek, the Creekers. I like how you call them that, Ben. You know, they loved us, and they accepted us. And we truly became they became our family. And then I was asked to lead the youth worship band. And I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know who Chris Tomlin was. But God had, you know, He knew that He had a plan for me with worship. You know, my passion to music came back, and not where I would have thought 2 years prior. You know, there's no way you would have told me that hanging out with a bunch of kids playing music at church was where my passion was going to come back more than it ever did before. And then I had the opportunity to join the Sunday worship team, and I still do that today, and I still absolutely love to lead worship. And then COVID happened for all of us, and in the recovery community overnight it was gone, right? It was like, where do we go? You know, what do we do? I was less worried about the new people, more worried about the people that were already in recovery. You know, that's where my heart was. Like, where's some of the old guys going to be at that this is what they do? They go to 5 to 7 meetings a week. This is their entire life. And then Pastor Ben at GUMC allowed us to start that AA group that I talked about earlier. And that was one of the first in-person meetings. So there were a lot of people that from the whole Des Moines community that were just thrilled to be able to come back and be in person. And that's where I met Dan in the harbor, and he started bringing the guys from the harbor. And you know, after you're in recovery for a little while, a few 24 hours, you forget a little bit, You forget what it's like in those early days. You forget what it's like when I was going to 5 meetings a week and struggling, So when Dan started bringing these guys, on the outside, it might look like we were doing them a favor, but they were doing us a favor. And they're still doing that today. Because those are the guys that keep us sober. And the men and women who are in early recovery are the most important ones that ever walk into the name. And we're all very well aware of that. And we are so grateful for that. And Dan and I became pretty good friends. And he asked me to speak at the Harbor House. They have a weekly speaker meeting. I've had the opportunity to do that. And it's been a great opportunity. So during the shutdown, I know I'm trying to hurry up. So during the shutdown, I had this ache inside of my soul. I was missing live music. So I decided I was ready to get out playing again. I took vocal lessons, played solo, duo, trio, started writing music. In 2023, I wrote and recorded my first record. And I became a lifelong dream of being a singer-songwriter. I could say that. And that was, thank you so much. All I write about is conversation between me and God, the journey of recovery, and some special people in my life as well. And this year has been a year of redemption, a very special year. 10 years sober today. Thank you very much. In June of this year alone, I had 3 major milestones that I was so grateful for. 5 years ago, I decided to change careers. And I went from being a portrait photographer to a plumber. I'll tell that story to somebody if you want to hear how I got in, because that was kind of a crazy process. But I'm a journeyman now, official journeyman. Union, Local 33, Brotherhood. And also finished my second album and released it, Angel Road. You guys have been hearing the songs from that. So that happened in June as well. And also in June, I got married to a wonderful woman that God brought into my life. And it was a wonderful day. The honeymoon was rough. We went to a hurricane in Jamaica. But God brought this wonderful woman into my life. And we're a wonderful blended family. We are blended and redeemed. And all of our kids are so blessed to have a mother and a father, my kid's mother as well, that are just wonderful people. And to see them grow their relationships together, I didn't see that coming. I did not see that coming. Once they started fighting like they were siblings their whole lives, it was like, this is great, And then to see, every time I drop the kids off on Sunday, Macy's with me. Macy gives them a big old hug, and it just warms my heart. So, God bless that, God bless that. I'm gonna leave everything up. I'll invite the band to come back. We're gonna do some worship music to close this out. You guys can start heading back up here. I'm gonna leave everybody with one question. The thing that I never cared about before I was drinking was I never cared about anybody else. So I'm going to ask you this question. I want you to be thinking about this tomorrow. I want you to be thinking about this next week, next month. Who are you helping? Who are you helping? Who's the person that's coming into your mind that you can help? And help them. So, all right. Well, thank you for listening to my testimony. I'm trying to stay on schedule tonight, but nobody's got up and left yet, so I guess we're not doing too bad. So we're gonna close this thing out with some worship music. So, hey, sweetie, how are you doing?